Hey everyone, welcome to Whiskey-Rut. My name is Sky.
I'm Chris.
Thanks for joining us today. We have an exciting topic today, and that is bourbon.
Yes.
All things bourbon, what makes bourbon bourbon, what kind of flavor profile bourbon brings to the table. And as always, we're going to rate these whiskeys. So we'll have our normal barrel rating system, 10 being a well worth it type of whiskey for the money, 1 being whiskey maybe you could just leave on the shelf.
Yeah.
So, Chris, do you want to go ahead and just go into what makes a bourbon a bourbon?
Yeah, definitely. So, with bourbon, all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. And there's really 2 big factors that give a reason for you to slap that bourbon logo onto a bottle of whiskey. Number 1 is it has to be made in America. It has to also be, number 2, 51% corn in the mash bill, or basically the ingredients. And then it has to be aged in new oak barrels, charred, for 2 years. And then when it enters into the barrel, as far as the spirit, it has to enter in no higher than 125 proof, and then when it comes out of the barrel, it has to be no lower than 80% proof. So that's really what makes a bourbon a bourbon. And you could take this and you go to like Mexico, Japan, Europe, really anywhere, Canada, and you could follow the same process, but you can't put that bourbon logo on there because that is something that only America can do, is slap that bourbon name if this process is done in the United States.
And there are some people that would argue that it has to be done in Kentucky for it to be a bourbon.
Does not.
So it's a contentious debate right there.
Yes.
But
Maybe
way.
like Kentucky purists, they'll be like, it has to be done in Kentucky.
Started in Kentucky, it'll end there too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So a little bit of history about bourbon is, when people came over to the States from across the pond, they would bring, obviously, the distilling practices that were already in place. But there's one thing that's a little bit different is that, when you were back, in Europe and you had like a kingship and everything like that, any extra corn that you had, the king would actually take from you. So you had enough to feed your family, your livestock, maybe have a little bit to, in case of a famine or something like that. But really the excess would go to the king. Well, when you came to the States, there wasn't that tax, if you will. So to keep the corn from going bad, what do? You make a spirit out of it. You make whiskey.
Why not make whiskey?
Yeah. And so the first guy who's credited with making bourbon is Elijah Craig, and obviously there's people who'd say yes, no, blah, 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 blah. But really what he did is he was the first one to take a whiskey mash and put it into a charred oak barrel. So as far as the history, things kind of went along with whiskey, and people made distilleries, and it was definitely an American thing to do. And then kind of, after the Civil War, there was kind of a retraction of buying whiskey, or just the demand wasn't there, obviously, because of war. After that, though, the demand was really high, and people wanted to enjoy their whiskey. And so what happened is people wanted to make a quick buck. So they would take a different grain spirit and they'd actually put it into a bottle, and then what they would do is they would add coloring to it. Some people would use tobacco. There is a lady here in Colorado, when Colorado was first established, one of the first houses, if you will. If you go on a tour there, they actually explain to you that she would add tobacco into her whiskey to make it look
from
like
a spittoon.
Whiskey. Exactly. Pretty gross.
Nasty.
Other people, what they would do is they would, to get that bite and that sting, they would actually put acid in it. Right. So there were a lot of like unhealthy things happening during that time. People would die from it, from consuming bad whiskey. And eventually there was a guy named Colonel Taylor who came along, and he created the Bottled in Bond Act.
Very important.
Very important. It was the first, regulation on any type of alcohol within the States. And it basically said if you're going to make a bourbon, it has to follow these rules. And then people knew if they're going to go to the drugstore and buy a whiskey, the one that's bottled in bond, that one's going to be the one to drink, the healthy one.
Yep.
All the other ones, just avoid them. So that was really a huge turning point. And then obviously distilleries kept coming along, and people kept drinking whiskey. And I think around the 70s, it just kind of died out, right? People just didn't really want it.
There was a lull, yeah. There was a lot of supply that came up, and the demand went low, and it just kind of, a lot of them petered out.
Yeah.
but like lately we've definitely seen a renaissance. Really, since the '90s, it started to amp up, and now with the creation of like new breweries and craft breweries, we're starting to see that with whiskeys. People are starting to experiment.
They are.
A lot of distillers are popping up here in Colorado. It's going nuts, both with breweries and distilleries. They're popping up everywhere. And with that, we're excited to bring you these two bourbons.
Yes.
We've got Deer-hammer, which is a straight bourbon here in Colorado. Follows all the guidelines that Chris talked about, the bonding guidelines. And then we have Old Elk, which is a blended straight whiskey, which we'll get into in a little bit.
Yeah.
But with that, do you want to start testing them?
Yeah, so let's do this. I actually got the mash bill for Deer-hammer and also some tasting notes.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be cool if we went through that mash bill and kind of figured out, okay, this is the percentage of corn and all these different things. This is what people are tasting.
Yeah.
And then we'll go ahead and kind of see if we taste the same thing. We
Right.
wanted to also do like that objective kind of tasting and subjective tasting.
Yeah, we'll get a little bit into that.
So I feel like with this, we can kind of get more into the objective, and then obviously we have our own kind of tasting style. So,
all right, so tell us about the Deer-hammer.
Yeah, so the Deer-hammer, this one is made here in Colorado. It's a straight bourbon, which means it's aged in charred American oak barrels, 2 years. And this one is a 65% corn, 20% red wheat, 10% oats, and 5% roasted barley. So that's the mash bill of this one. And this one, I believe, is about, what, 55 for a bottle?
Yeah, it's about $50.
$50, okay, perfect. So that's the mash bill for this one. As far as the tasting notes, actually, let's do this. Do you want to go over the mash bill of this?
Yeah, let's talk about Old Elk too. Okay, again, Old Elk, kind of a Colorado bourbon, not completely. So Old Elk is a blended straight bourbon, meaning that it is made with all the qualifications of a straight bourbon. But this particular distillery could not handle, I guess, the demand right off the bat. So it's actually currently, it's split up into 3 different distilleries. One in Illinois, one in New York, and one here in Colorado. And so they make the same whiskeys, but they're aged in 3 different locations. And then when they bottle it, they blend them. So even though they're made the same in all 3 locations, it's still considered blending. So, however, that is supposed to end here in the future. And it may already have. This one still says blended straight whiskey, but their goal, Old Elk, is to kind of consolidate everything to a new distillery in Fort Collins here in Colorado.
Nice.
And so eventually you'll probably stop seeing the blended straight bourbon. It'll just be straight bourbon.
Very cool.
So
now it does not come with the elk head.
No,
right?
I am a sucker for free things, and so I got this fancy plastic, maybe fake nickel coated elk head pourer. So we're going to be enjoying some elk vomit today while we drink. So with that, let's pour these up.
Man. Let's do it.
I'm going to pour the Old Elk first. I imagine when I pour this that it's making a throw up sound. Just it looks disgusting. Hey, out of my way. I have horns.
Not gonna mess with you, man.
Not gonna
mess with
mess with the elk.
No.
Get the horns.
You get the horns. All right. So which one do you want to taste first?
Let's start. I like to do them both kind of back to back because I feel like I get
them both.
It's easier for me to pull out different things once I smell different things. So I feel like sometimes when I'm smelling them both, I pick up things I wouldn't normally pick up.
Yeah. Do you want the taste notes first for the Deer-hammer?
Yeah. What are you supposed to taste?
So this is melted milk chocolate and hazelnut on the nose, along with Cheerios, caramel, and roasted chestnuts. So that's what you're supposed to get on the nose.
Right.
You get any of that.
I'll get the chocolate. I definitely get some sort of...
I get the hazelnut.
I do get some chestnut hazel. It's nutty.
Mm-hmm. Very nutty.
Cheerios,
man.
Yeah, I do feel like the oats.
Some
sort of oat.
But I'm not really getting like a sweetness of vanilla, caramel, chocolate. That's not really what I'm getting.
No. And I do get some barrel char in there.
There's a
I
smokiness
definitely
to
get
it.
some barrel char.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong. I'll be honest, this is a good one to smell. Like, it's not strong. Like, you know, you get the acetone burn. You don't really get it with this.
Yeah.
Like, I can... Oh, wait. You know what I get? Which is weird? Which it didn't say it in there. I almost get like a Coca-Cola. Like a cola.
Yes.
Cola smell.
Yeah.
That's syrupy. Yeah. Like a nice Coke.
Yeah.
Or Pepsi. Good, you know, whichever one you prefer. I don't take sides in that game. But
all right, so you want to taste it? Keep smelling. What do you want?
I want to smell the Old Elk. So Old Elk again.
Oh man,
the mash
that
bill
is different.
The mash bill of Old Elk, I think I forgot to say, is it's a little over 60% corn. It's about 34% barley, and then just under 10% rye. This is the type of mash bill I would like, because I like bourbon, I like the corn, I like the sweetness, but I'm also a Scotch guy. So barley is definitely something I like, and I like rye. So it kind of has the whole shebang.
When I smell this one, I get the barley and the rye.
Ooh, I get
way more distinct than what I get in the.
Yeah, when you compare these. This one definitely, the char, the oak comes out a lot stronger. The Old Elk, to me, I get like a very sweet, like maple syrup.
Yeah.
Maple syrup, brown sugar. Like this smells like something you would pour over pancakes to me.
Right, it makes you feel like you're in Canada.
Yeah.
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 Makes you feel like a Canadian?
Like a Mountie?
A Mountie?
A Mountie.
All right, man, I got to taste it.
I'm a little afraid. I'm afraid that the Deer-hammer is going to be too strong just by the smell. I'm going to go in with the Old Elk first.
Me too.
Ooh. I don't know about you right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
It's got like a really nice velvety like feel to it. You roll it around in your mouth, there's almost no burn.
Right. Yeah, really smooth. Really smooth. I like it because it ends with that rye.
It does finish with rye.
That's nice.
The rye doesn't come till the end though.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's sweet. It's not overly sweet. It smells sweeter than it tastes.
Mm-hmm.
It smells like it would be sweeter.
It does, yeah.
But I definitely get the brown sugar. I do get the maple, but yeah, it finishes with that rye spice.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
It's good. This is a nice one. This is really, I like the smell of this one too.
Yeah, this is a it's a breakfast whiskey right there. That is one you have for breakfast.
Going on the cornflakes.
Yep. Woo!
Man, that one really hits. After the Old Elk, you get the char.
Woo! That is oak. That is spice and oak.
I don't know if they do anything.
And you get the oats. I get I get the Cheerio now.
The Cheerio.
More so.
Yeah. And this is a heavy. It says in the bill a heavy toasted char.
Oh, it's
you get it.
This is I have a feeling tasting this is not for the faint of heart.
Whew. That is a charred taste.
What's the proof of this? What is this? 44%. This is 88 proof, so this is the same.
Yeah.
They're the same. Both of these are kind of low on the alcohol content, which is kind of why, so if you're a person that likes like a strong whiskey, the Old Elk is not going to be that. It's a little mild. This is, I would call this a sipping whiskey.
That's a good whiskey. Yeah.
This one, wow. Yeah, the smokiness.
I don't know what I think about this one yet, man.
It's smoky.
Very smoky. It's not what I was expecting.
I do get this. It's sweet. It's got like a vanilla honey sweet. But right off the bat, it's smoke. Mm-hmm. And the smoke carries through the entire way.
It's heavy on the smoke.
You're not...
It's there. I get smoking Cheerios. Toasted Cheerios.
It's a little watery on the mouthfeel. It's not quite as... Yeah, that's a good idea. Cut this a little. Sometimes it sounds bad, but you add a little water and it opens it up a bit.
Well, you got to find your own neat, right?
Yeah.
So some people, they might say, let's get into that kind of subjective part of it, of I like to drink this straight. Other people might say I need a little bit of water, so I put an ice cube in there or a couple drips. Does it change it for you?
Yeah, it cuts down on the... Whew! Got some of that in the wind tunnel. Man, this is...
Oh, just get that char. Yeah.
It is charred. It does cut down on it. I do think I'm getting more...
Mm-hmm.
I get a little more of... I think the sweet and the smoky... I get a sort of toasted marshmallow in it. But it is strong. Strong on the oak char and the smoke. It's not bad. This is definitely a campfire type bourbon.
Need some ice cubes in this thing.
I just think like this might go well with like a steak or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with a cigar, steak.
It's not super smooth. It's a little sharp.
It's real sharp. I mean, it's hanging right now.
Yeah. I think I might be belching this for the next hour. Not necessarily in a bad way, you know. I think Reuben sandwiches do the same thing to me, but I love them. Right?
I love them. And I think it goes back to what's the moment? Where are you when you're going to enjoy this, right? If we're sitting here in the parlor, you know, we might have some Old Elk and just kind of hang out and sip on it. If we're going to go in the mountains, do some camping, we might go ahead and take some Deer-hammer because it's, you know, you're by the campfire, you're out in the wilderness.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of fits the scenario and the mood that you're in. So,
and I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good point you brought up. That, like, whiskey's not just about what flavors do they have and do I like the flavors. It's what setting am I in? Yeah. You know?
Who am I
are
with?
you with? What am I doing?
Yeah.
Different whiskeys for different occasions, you know? I think that's why there's breakfast food and dinner food.
That's true.
Lunch food. Although... Like, I eat breakfast food for every meal pretty easily.
I mean, breakfast is, yeah. You could eat breakfast the rest of your life. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I really could.
Yeah. I could too, man. I don't have a
But
problem.
are there foods that you wouldn't eat for breakfast? What wouldn't you eat for breakfast?
A salad?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I wouldn't want a salad for breakfast.
I don't think I would either.
But I would eat steak for breakfast.
I'd eat...
Would you eat a hamburger for breakfast?
Oh, definitely. I've done it. Definitely done it. Now, I haven't, like, it's always been a night before, like, day before leftover hamburger. I wouldn't go out and cook one on the grill.
Leftover hamburger for breakfast.
Yeah.
Right. I guess I'm not above that. I would do that. I'm just trying to think. Yeah. I don't know.
Breakfast, dinner.
Breakfast, dinner.
Yeah.
Strong dinner. Like, that whiskey deserves a very spicy, hearty meal.
Yeah.
This could easily get drowned out.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Like you said.
What's the... Oh, go ahead.
Like you said, it just depends on what situation are you in, who are you with, and then what were you going to say?
I was going to ask what the price was on the Deer-hammer. I can't remember.
So this one was $50.
That's right.
How much is Old Elk?
Well, this is 52.
Okay.
So,
real quick, do we want to do that objective, subjective tasting? Get on that real quick?
Yeah, we can talk about it. Yeah, so, like, objectively, what is a bourbon supposed to bring, right? Yep. Well, it's obviously, mash bill is mostly corn. So bourbons are going to tend to be sweeter.
Right.
It's supposed to be sweeter.
Vanilla, caramel.
Yes.
Those kinds of
It's going to be sugarier. And then it's in charred oak barrels. So what kind of flavors? So it's going to have a spiciness to it. It'll have, I mean, a pretty wide array of flavors, but you'll have, you know, the caramels, you'll have the charred, the oak, you'll have things like vanilla, Things like maybe cocoa or maple or molasses, things like that. And so, like, objectively, when I look at a bourbon, what I think a bourbon should have, especially because it's supposed to be aged at least 2 years. Most of them are aged more. A lot of them are hitting like the 5 to 10 year mark.
Right. Kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah. Really what they're trying to do is take away that like acetone like bite, that like burning, you know?
Yeah.
And so when we say it's smooth, I know a lot of people don't like that word, but that's really what we're saying. Like, I think objectively people prefer a whiskey that is smooth. Like
yes.
And then it also, the aging process rounds the flavors out.
Right.
Makes them round. And what we mean by round is, again, it's sort of like the flavors flow into one another. There's not like one thing that's like overpowering the other things. So you want complexity, you want roundness, you want smoothness.
Right.
And so when we're saying it's a good whiskey, that's what we're saying. Probably the majority of people, when we say something's good, they're probably going to like these attributes, right?
Yeah.
It's complex, it's smooth, it's round.
Right.
And it's got good flavor.
Yeah.
Now, subjectively, again, some people may really love the smokiness. They may really like the charred flavors. Other people like really, really sweet things.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, this one
subjectivity to it too.
This one's tough for me. I did not expect it to be as smoky as it is. I thought it would be more of that, chocolatey flavor, sweetness. So this one threw me off. I don't know. I tend to go more for sweet things. They have a good. I forgot what the other one was. Oh, we got it. We got it right here. The American single malt whiskey.
The single malt. Yeah.
When I had this one, that one was very chocolatey cocoa, and I really, really enjoyed it. That's one of my favorites that actually you never tried, right?
I actually haven't tried that yet.
Okay, so I'll get a bottle of that. We'll try that together. But that's also Deer-hammer, and that one is what I really got as far as that sweetness, chocolate. I loved it. It was really, really good. So I thought this one would kind of be the same, but it is totally different. And this one's throwing me off. I'm not sure if I like this one, personally.
Yeah.
Because of the heavy smoke, I just don't know if I like it.
Yeah, I would say if I was to rate that one, because it is $50, it's not expensive. I mean, it's in the upper ends of the middle of the road. I think probably someone that is more into like strong peaty scotches would be much more inclined to this type of bourbon.
Yeah.
Because it has that just very like bold presence and flavor.
That smokiness.
Yeah.
It's kind of different smokiness though.
And that's more of a subjective thing, but I do think the smokiness kind of drowns out everything else quite a bit. It's hard for me to pick out the other things.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It does smell pretty decent, and it is a little burny. It's a little acetone. So for $50, might be a little high to me. So I will give it a 7. I mean, I do think it's good. I don't think it's worth $50.
Okay.
The Old Elk, I'm gonna give it a 9 because I do think it has those things you would expect from a $50 bottle of scotch, or not scotch, bourbon. It's complex, it's sweet, and it's very smooth, very velvety. It's got good texture. I mean, you're definitely getting what you're paying for in it, more so. So I'm gonna go 9 and a 7.
9 and a 7. Okay. Yeah, between these two, the Old Elk, I really like the Old Elk. It's smooth, it's round, kind of everything you're looking for in a bourbon. It's easy sipping and easy drinking. It's good, man. So I'm gonna give that one a 9. This one, based off personal preference, I'm gonna give this one a 6. It's just, for me, it doesn't bring much, and that's why I say the context of where you drink this. Like, if we go camping, right? The families go camping and all that. I think this is going to become more registered on my palate because it's like now you're kind of drinking that nostalgia, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think if we do something like that, this is going to become more of an enjoyable whiskey. This one seems to be more of, this is what we've drank before many times.
Yeah.
So it brings back just those good times that we've had together of just normal bourbons.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to give this one a 6, just for where it is now, kind of off of the subjective tasting part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it. 2, I would say, pretty good whiskeys.
Yeah.
Both Colorado proud. So if you get a chance, try them out. Again, if you like bolder whiskeys, Deer-hammer might be for you. And it's not entirely too expensive. So I do think it's worth a try. Because someone who likes bold whiskeys might like it. Old Elk, definitely. If you're into, I would say, a little higher quality whiskey, but you don't want to break the bank, this one's definitely a good one to try. Like,
Well,
I feel like
they're
most
the same
people,
price too, basically,
They are.
right?
They are.
So I'd say this one you get more bang for your buck.
You
with the Old
definitely
Elk.
do.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, you're definitely paying more for this, but you are getting more. Like, you really are getting your value. So, again, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you liked our bourbon episode.
Yes.
And
We'll do what? Rye next? Scotch next?
we'll do Scotch.
Irish
Maybe
whiskey?
we'll do rye. There's a lot of stuff going with Scotch. As far as even within Scotland, there are regions, you know, Islay whiskeys and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to go into. Who knows what we'll do next?
No.
But, you know, like, subscribe,
Yes.
hit the ring-a-ding-dong thing, and, you know, follow us, and we'll see what happens next time we come.
That's right.
Thanks again for joining us.
Get that rut!
Get out there, rep.